What is an odd behavior of yours you think only you do? My dog and I have arguments when he barks. He will hear someone in our hallway outside and start barking every time. I tell him, shh, and he barks again slightly less loudly this time. This continues until I can barely hear him, but he has to get the last word in. Drives me up the wall. I do the same with my cat. We have full-on conversations and arguments. My hands being wet makes me angry. I'm not a confrontational/aggressive person, but if my hands were wet and someone came at me, I'd be probably 4x more likely to be aggressive back at them. Holy crap, yes. Also, when you roll up your sleeves to wash your hands and the sleeves fall down before you can dry them. Infuriating. How about this one? I don't mind my hands being properly wet, per se, but I'm either feeling not properly dried and hate one of my hands being wet, or one being more wet than the other. I also can't stand them being even slightly sticky or feeling dirty, but if I have to plunge my hands in mud or something, I'm fine. Guess maybe I'm just an all-or-nothing person? I get weird compulsions that I need to touch between my pinky fingers or touch my armpit. It's more like a tickling sensation that builds until I have to relieve it by touching it. I have no idea what causes this, and I haven't heard of anyone else that has to do this. Maybe some form of mild OCD? Edit. Frequency of the sensation is constant. Every few seconds, though I feel the intensity of the feeling comes in waves. I knew a girl with Tourette's that described this, but instead of touching to relieve the sensation she had to hit it. She was just constantly hitting herself. When a page is taking a long time to load on my laptop, I rotate my index finger clockwise and it makes me feel like it makes the page load faster. There was an article here a few months ago about how moving your mouse back and forth actually made things go faster in old versions of Windows. Every time I bend over to pick something up, I pretend I just unknowingly dodged a bullet from some faraway sniper trying to take me out. Sometimes I shoot fingers guns for no reason. Stop dodging. If I'm a passenger on a long car journey, I pretend Terry's a running man at the side of the road who can't touch the ground, and I imagine it in full detail, jumps to that tree, somersaults down and runs along the barrier, jumps, pushes off the stop sign and onto the phone box and so on. For me it is a someone on a dirt bike. I told my brother when we were younger and he said for him it was someone riding a bear. I tap my top and bottom teeth side to make rhythms, but both sides have to be evenly tapped. And, when I think of, or hear, a particular word, I'll rearrange the letters so they go consonant, vowel, etc. and add letters in when they don't fit the pattern. Double letters get scratched. So say the word pattern, it becomes parine, because it's following the rule, and removing doubles. Sometimes I'll stretch it out to incorporate every vowel and Y. So in that case, pattern would become parinecusoli. No reason why. But I do it constantly, and haven't been able to switch it off for 15 years or more. It took me a very long time to realize what I was doing, and even longer to be able to put it into words. I have severe ADHD and constantly have music in my head. I constantly find, to my constant annoyance, that I'm grinding/tapping my teeth with the music and have to consciously stop it. Was doing it when I got to your post. When I wake up for work, sometimes I have the good chills about certain things. Like the AC console in my car might look like a cockpit and it sends good chills down my spine. It's like the time before I have to be at work is a cozy little mini time. There is no way in hell I can explain this in words. I have always called it the morning weird. Man, I hope there is someone else out there that knows what I'm talking about. Yep, I get them, usually as I get my day going, and especially if there's something cozy about my drive into work that strikes me, like when I get a really good podcast and I have my coffee and suddenly I take it all in and it's like a tiny little joy-gasm that gives me a shivery boost. I have a habit that somewhat resembles what autistic people do when they're overstimulated. When I'm alone at home and something positive happens, get some good news, get invited somewhere fun etc., I slap my head, almost like I'm playing the bongos. It happens a lot and actually feels really good. Like I'm getting a serotonin rush. In grade 4, I met one other person who did it. She called it the woogies, which I still think is amazing. I think you have loved yourself. That is awesome. Sometimes when I'm listening to music I play a game where I tap my fingers to the syllables. If the sentence ends at the pinky or the thumb I win, if not I must continue until it ends up at one of them. I do this with anything I hear or read even, not just music. I have noticed I often sniff when I enter a room so I don't scare people by just talking out of nowhere. Your friends probably think you've got a crippling cocaine habit. I scoot my shoes on the ground so it makes a noise. I'm always scaring people when they can't see me edit. I don't mean all the time, I just purposefully hit my toe or heel on the ground once or twice so they're aware I am nearby. Sometimes I wonder if there's actually people who can see into your mind, so I start thinking about really interesting things so if there is, they won't think I'm boring. I scream as loud as I can, mentally, and think of really messed up stuff. If they look uncomfortable after that, I then know that they can. I make sure to make a splash noise when I pee to make sure I'm not sleeping and pissing the bed. Has it ever saved your bed from smelling like pee? That's the hard part. I haven't pissed my bed since I started it, but correlation does not equal causation. It kinda weird but I like to rub my feet against each other under the covers. It calms me down and helps me fall asleep. My boyfriend always does this. Even if we're on the couch watching TV and he starts falling asleep. I can always tell when he's tired because of it, even if he swears he's not. One more episode. No, babe, you're doing the thing with your feet. In the shower, I slowly rotate to keep myself evenly warm. I do it unconsciously now. Like a rotisserie chicken. I have a morning ritual that I need to share. I call it the Terminator. First I crouch down in the shower in the classic naked Terminator traveling through time pose. With my eyes closed I crouch there for a minute, visualizing either Arnold or the guy from the second movie, not the chick in the third one because that one sucked, and I start to hum the Terminator theme. Then I slowly rise to a standing position and open my eyes. It helps me to proceed through my day as an emotionless, cyborg badass. The only problem is if the shower curtain sticks to my Terminator leg. It ruins the fantasy. I say things to myself to break a train on thought. Like I love you or I'm sorry or you got this just to keep myself going on the right path. Probably be weird if someone walked in on me trying to motivate myself out loud. Positive affirmations. Good work, it's important to be nice to yourself. Using random number generator apps to dictate how I set my daily to-do lists. When I can't decide between two things I assign them random numbers, like 68 and 14, or call them left and right, and have someone pick one over the other. Whatever they choose I go for that thing. When I'm alone I use RNG or coin instead. So not exactly, but same idea I suppose. Can say in all honesty. I adopted the Monk Touch, Monk the old TV series about the unique detective, whereby I'll touch every pole or stop sign I pass even if just for a second. Don't know when it started but it's become almost subconscious autonomy at this point over many years and odd looks. As to why? I have no idea. Something about touching something physical that's permanent and serving a purpose I guess. Well, guess I'm not so odd after all. Hello fellow tappers. I do this when I'm drunk. My dad drilled into me from a very young age that when you're on a boat you should always have 3 points of contact with whatever environment you're moving on, so both feet and at least one hand. Now that kicks in whenever I feel unstable, including when I've had one too many drinks. Makes me look like I'm low-key trying to Tarzan my way across the living room. I rub the tip of my nose and after a while it starts to feel really nice and I get a mild sensation not unlike an orgasm. Do you want a pimple on the tip of your nose? Because that's how you get a pimple on the tip of your nose. Op has trolled us all. Lol. Shake my butt when I'm lying in bed. Hey, you should meet my roommate. I wake up every morning to him just fast asleep but vigorously shaking his butt. Sometimes when I get bored, I explain modern things to Benjamin Franklin. Music I listen to, or how my phone works, etc. Sometimes I go even further back and explain it to Socrates or a caveman. Sometimes it's philosophical, sometimes it's just stupid. I don't know why I do it, but it's very entertaining. I used to do something like that on car trips, only I'd pick a time period and imagine what a philosopher, monk or otherwise educated person from that era would be able to figure out what I was seeing. Each day when I come home from work, I say to my cat Bruce Wayne, "Hi, honey. I'm home. Did you do your taxes?" Or, "You did your taxes." In my head, if my cat were a person, he'd be a tax accountant or something. Every time I leave the house I remind my dog to pay whatever bill is due next. My alarm is set to 7 a.m, I can't remember when I last heard it go off, because I wake up at around 6:15, and spend some time on my phone, before unsetting my alarm and getting in the shower before 7 a.m. My alarm is set to 7 a.m, I can't remember when I last heard it go off, because I wake up at around 7:30. Talking to myself in gibberish when I'm doing something as though I were explaining what I'm doing. I imagined a guy doing the dishes and talking like someone from The Sims. I'll occasionally reread sections of a book where nothing much happens, but the characters are just chilling. It's almost like visiting friends. When I begin a book, the very first thing I do is read the very last paragraph. It's often too vague to give away the ending but leaves me wondering of the context that lead to that final paragraph. I've always felt like it makes finding out the resolution that much more satisfying. I hear noises in multiples of 8. Not that I hear any sound 8 times, but if there's a noise that repeats a bunch of times, I hear it in my head again and count it, using 8s. Are you a musician? Being stuck in 4/4 time so often, it would make sense. Wow, you guys, I never thought of it as being 4/4 time, but it probably is. Now I feel dumb, lol. I did used to write music, and I have years of piano and voice training, so yeah. When I'm watching a movie or TV series and something bad happens to a character I really like, I can't handle him being sad or distraught. So I stop watching it. It's a real problem I have to force myself to continue. Because if I wouldn't watch anything until the end. It's been like this since I was a kid. I can't watch sitcoms or other awkward drama shows. I put myself in the show, not as a character. Just like I'm watching it happen IRL or something, I am firmly aware it's a show and that I'm not there and it's not here, and I can't stand those awkward moments. And most sitcoms are built around that. I'm very picky about what I watch. Lol. Not the same as yours, but it feels like a cousin to it somehow. Smile. When at the library or bookstore, I sometime open a book I know I will read at some point, but not right now, and read a random line at a random page. Then, Maybe years later I will read the book, and when I get to that line that I have forgotten all about and get the most powerful feeling of déjà vu, I will remember what the world felt like, smelt like, the sensations and feelings I had while reading that line. It's like little gifts of memories to future me floating around in various books. That's beautiful. As someone who gets a lot of déjà vu, I want to try this. I blow on my ice cream. To cool it off. I'm not really sure. I wasn't even aware I was doing something weird until my GF noticed and said, "You know that's not hot, right?" Brain, I got this. Food very temperature, I learn from soup. In my head I make a plan to rob any business I enter. I make note of security, cameras, employees. I think about what part of town I'm in and try to estimate what the police response time would be and possible escape routes and so on. I'd never do it, of course. It's just a mental exercise. I made the mistake of telling my wife about it, and now when we go out she notices and tracks my eyes and says, "Stop that. You're so weird. Lol." I disaster plan like this. It's like I've got a wheel of fortune in my brain that spins when I walk into a new place, and lands on a random disaster scenario. I then plan my escape and who, if anyone, I could save, and if doing so would raise my long-term risk by an amount I consider not worthwhile. It varies from large-scale disasters that involve planning how to get to a bomb shelter environment, to a glass skylight breaking, to what to do if the store were robbed. I guess I'm your nemesis for that last one.